November 23rd, 1996. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961 is attempting to make an emergency landing off the coast of Africa. The plane has exhausted its fuel and is traveling at over 200 miles an hour. Unable to land at the nearest airport, the captain is left with only one option: landing a passenger jet with 175 people aboard in the ocean. The plane, a Boeing 767, was scheduled to fly from Addis Ababa to the Ivory Coast, with brief stopovers in Nairobi, Brazzaville, and Lagos, before reaching its final destination in Abidjan. Just 20 minutes into the flight, 3 Ethiopian men charged the cockpit and hijacked the aircraft, after taking an axe and a fire extinguisher from the cockpit. The hijackers threaten to blow up the plane if the pilots do not obey their demands. They claim there are 11 of them, when in fact there are only 3. After assaulting and forcing the first officer into the cabin, they announce to the passengers that they have a bomb, and if anyone tries to interfere, they will use it to blow up the plane. The hijackers demand that the plane be flown to Australia. However, there is a large problem with that plan. The plane does not have enough fuel for the journey. Captain Leol Abate tries to explain that they had only taken on the fuel needed for the Addis Ababa to Nairobi trip, and thus could not even make a quarter of the journey to Australia. But the hijackers do not believe him. "How can that be?" one of them replies, when the in-flight magazine states the maximum flying time of the 767 is 11 hours. Captain Abate was no stranger to hijackings. He had been hijacked twice prior, when he was forced to fly to Kenya and Sudan, respectively. He later commented, "They knew they wouldn't make it to Australia. They just wanted us to crash. They should be dead. The way they were talking, they didn't want to live." Instead of flying towards Australia, the captain followed the African coastline southward. The hijackers noticed that land was still visible and forced the pilot to steer east. Captain Abate secretly headed for the Comoros Islands, which lay midway between Madagascar and the African mainland. The plane was nearly out of fuel as it approached the island group, but the hijackers continued to ignore the captain's warnings. Out of options, the captain began to circle the area, hoping to land the plane at the Comoros' main airport. This would force the plane to land at more than 324 kilometers an hour, 201 miles an hour. With its fuel exhausted, the right engine flamed out. The hijacker briefly exited the cabin to talk with the other hijackers. Captain Abate took this opportunity to address the passengers over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot. We have run out of fuel and we are losing one engine at this time. And we are expecting a crash landing, and that is all I have to say. We have already lost one engine, and I ask all passengers to react to the hijackers." Hearing this, the lead hijacker returned to the cockpit and knocked the captain's microphone out of his hand. The left engine then flamed out, forcing the 767 to glide. The cockpit voice recorder then recorded the following: "For the sake of my responsibility, at least, the passengers must know the condition. Descend it. Increase the speed further. It doesn't have any difference. Please. All the same, we are going to die. Why don't you? I thought there is no need to. For the passengers." The captain tried to make an emergency landing at Prince Said Ibrahim International Airport on Grand Comoro, but a fight with the hijackers at the last minute caused him to lose his visual point of reference, leaving him unable to locate the airport. While still fighting with the hijackers, Captain Abate tried to ditch the aircraft in shallow waters 500 yards from shore. He attempted to land parallel with the waves instead of against them, in an effort to smooth the landing. Seconds prior to contacting the water, the aircraft was banked left some 10 degrees. The left engine and wingtip struck the water first. The engine acted as a scoop and struck a coral reef, slowing that side of the aircraft quickly and causing the Boeing 767 to suddenly tilt left. The rest of the aircraft then entered the water unevenly, causing it to break apart. Except for the rear part of the airframe, the broken portions of the fuselage sank rapidly. Many passengers died because they prematurely inflated their life jackets in the cabin, causing them to be trapped inside the sinking plane. Island residents and tourists rushed to the aid of crash survivors. One tourist even recorded a video of Flight 961 crashing. She later said she'd begun taping because she believed that the 767 formed a part of an air show for tourists. Of the 175 passengers and crew members, 125 were killed, including the 3 hijackers. According to the accident report, all 6 surviving crew members, including Captain Leo Labate, and 38 passengers received serious injuries. Many of the passengers survived the initial crash, but they had either disregarded, misunderstood, or did not hear the pilot's warning not to inflate their life jackets inside the aircraft. This caused them to be pushed against the ceiling of the fuselage when the water flooded in. Between 60 and 80 passengers drowned in this way.